Hello, Legion. This is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. I have a bit of an announcement to make. I am now on Patreon. First things first, you might be noticing that this is a long video. It's intended to be as long as you need it to be. So I'm going to be going over a bunch of information, the timestamps for which are here on your screen. And if you don't feel like you have the time to get to the information you need from this video, check out the Q&A on the Patreon page because it actually contains the wording of pretty much the entire second half and more of the video. I wanted to give you the opportunity to actually have me going through it personally with you. So that's why the video is so long. It's not actually as long as it appears. It's just me reading information that's already available to you if you want to go look at it elsewhere. So many of you have asked me about this repeatedly, and in large part due to those very urgings, I went ahead and got the channel set up on Patreon. This video is part of the channel and community mini-series, so I want to do three things. First, I'll very quickly go over what Patreon is, so everyone's on the same page. Second, I'm going to give you the short argument for why I'm on Patreon and why you might consider donating. And finally, I'm going to actually give you the long version. I'll read through the entire Q&A on the Patreon page so that you can hear the in-depth case for supporting the channel on Patreon directly from me. If at any point you decide you're sold and want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below, and I thank you in advance for your kindness. So what is Patreon? I'm not going to give you some canned definition from the site. Let me try to put it in my own words. Patreon is basically a crowdfunding site for creative persons or organizations. So think Kickstarter. I'm not even reading from my script right now. Think Kickstarter, but for people more so than for causes or for projects. And you don't just set up a set amount and then get it. You get regular amounts. It's a monthly crowdfunding site. Now you can set things up to be goal-based like Kickstarter, but mine is set up to be monthly. So whether you've got a creative bone in your body or not, you're probably aware that when someone's primary motivations are creative, it's tough to find a truly fulfilling line of work and steady stream of income, especially when you're just starting out. But even once you're established as an author, an artist, or a content creator, or what have you, it can be challenging to find that fulfillment and that steady stream of support just for doing what you love. However, if you have ever dedicated any amount of time to any kind of creative endeavor, you might know that if you're willing to put yourself out there, support from friends and family and people in your local community isn't hard to come by. It may take a while to build to massive scales, but the point is that even at the most nascent stages, it's possible to find people who really believe in you and are willing to support you. Patreon is a means to that end. It's a means to that support. Patreon provides the public at large with the means to support their favorite creators, with or without strings attached. The strings are up to the creator and what they may or may not wish to offer for different levels of contribution. So you can offer incentives for people to give certain amounts, or you cannot, but the site gives you a means to receive donated income because people believe in what you're doing and want to support you as a creator. So that's the definition of Patreon. Why am I on Patreon? What's the argument for supporting the channel on Patreon from your perspective? And what incentives am I offering? Again, this is a very short version of what I'm about to go over in depth. Here's why I'm here. Ad blockers. That's why I'm here. They're creating a problem for YouTube creators, and Patreon goes a long way toward eliminating the issue. At least mostly eliminating it, but right now, especially while the channel is younger, I would say categorically at a certain level of donations, it's possible to completely eliminate the issue. I'm on Patreon because I want to give my viewers the opportunity to simultaneously support my channel and use ad blockers if they so choose, when usually you'd have to pick one or the other. Of course, if you don't use ad blockers, you also have the option of just donating because you have the means and want to help the channel, which is wonderful. Now, this part might surprise you. This next part is totally real. Regardless of your reason for donating, even if you give the minimum amount, which is $1 a month, and might seem quite insignificant, like why is that even helpful? I don't want to do that. That's just nothing. You're making up with $1. You're making up the revenue for almost 1,000 ad blocked views for that month. with $1, given the current rates at the time of this recording anyway. And you can give more than that if you like. So there's really no question that even one person and the minimum possible amount makes a massive difference on their own. At the time I'm recording this, I don't have but around 1,100 videos, so by giving the minimum amount right now, you're basically providing me the equivalent income of one person watching all of my content, every single video I've ever made, and you're doing that monthly. It's just huge. So that's the argument for why Patreon donations are helpful and why I'm on Patreon. As for incentives and maybe why you should donate if what I just told you is not enough, I'm going to keep producing daily content to the best of my ability. The quality of my content is my only incentive for Patreon contributions, and I'll tell you why. First, I'm only speaking for myself here. It's every creator's right and decision to offer incentives for donations on Patreon. It's built into the site. It's part of the site. Just as it's every audience member's decision to offer donations. You don't have to do this if you're a subscriber to my channel. You don't. I will provide you the content regardless. If you're going to support me on Patreon, I'd ask you to just consider your contribution a donation because you like my content. If that's not all right with you, that's totally fine, and I urge you not to donate and just to enjoy being a part of the channel and community. The reason I look at it this way is that in my case, I am really passionate about community. I have always been, whether it comes to online forums, the games I play, or just the friends that I keep. Hypothetically, let's just say I created some special echelon of access for people who gave me $10 a month or more on Patreon. Okay, let's just imagine that for a moment. Maybe it's a private stream, maybe it's a voice chat like a Discord server, maybe it's special mentions in videos, whatever. In a perfect world, every person that was wonderful and generous and thoughtful enough to donate $10 or more a month would be an equally wonderful and generous and thoughtful member of the community, right? In a perfect world. But we don't live in a perfect world. And I care about the quality of my community, and I am very careful with the things that I do to encourage or discourage certain types of behavior among my viewers and social media followers, insofar as the way they treat me and the way they treat one another. The idea just does not sit well with me that an ill-behaved $10 subscriber could have access to anything that a stellar, long-time, non-paying subscriber does not have access to. I don't like that idea. So again, this isn't meant as a statement against people who do offer incentives. I just wanted to give you some justification for why I structure my Patreon the way I do. It's about what's right for my community and putting that community first. If you think that's BS, that's totally fine with me. I'm serious. Don't donate. I know there are going to be some people who want there to be some kind of exchange for a donation and who hear the explanation I just gave and they shake their head. I totally get it. Don't donate, keep watching and enjoying the channel, and we'll be cool regardless. Which, again, that right there, that spirit right there is the entire point of why I am not doing incentives. And that's the short version of why I'm on Patreon, why you might consider supporting the channel, and what you're going to get in response. I'm about to go over the actual website and the full Q&A in depth, but by no means should you feel obligated to keep watching. I will definitely go over some more detailed rationale and provide some information on where I will allocate funds, etc. But much like the Q&A itself, my objective with this video is just to kind of keep going until one of two things happens. One, you have all the information you need to decide whether to support me on Patreon, or two, I run out of things to say. Let me just say very quickly, if you're not going to listen further, thank you for taking the time to hear me out, and thank you especially if you've decided to support the channel. Your contributions are going to make a profound difference in the channel's sustainability, as well as my ability to provide the best possible content to you. But even if you don't donate, I want to thank you very much as well for all of your time, viewership, and support. It means the world to me, and I appreciate it very much. Okay, now let's go over the actual Patreon page. Again, the link is in the description below, but the link is patreon.com/HadrianLP, very similar to the channel itself, the Twitter account, the subreddit, etc. So I want to scroll down and take a look. First of all, we're going to look at the rewards just so you see what the options are, and then we'll go over the Q&A. Again, my entire purpose with this video is to just kind of keep talking until you have the information you need. The Q&A is structured the same way. It's kind of simpler questions first, more complicated questions later, and where you stop in that whole process and decide you have enough information is completely up to you, but we're going to go through all of it. So first of all, the pledge amounts, again, $1 or more per month. A $1 donation will make up for nearly 1,000 ad block views per person donating and will give you the peace of mind to use your own ad blocking software while knowing you are still supporting the channel. So that is, again, the majority of people that have pledged right now, just 3 people, but I mean, this is I say just 3, this is 3,000 views right there that have been ad blocked or might be ad blocked that are no longer a problem for me because of these 3 people. 3,000, okay, each month. So each year, that's many, many, many more. And then, of course, there's a $3 amount. And again, that's going to be 2,500 to 3,000 ad blocked views. There's a $5 amount, which is 4,000 to 5,000 ad blocked views. $10 or more per month. Again, you're making up for more and more, just especially once you're getting to $10 as opposed to $1, which is an order of magnitude higher, of course. It's just insane the difference you can make. And there's a $20 amount. But what I want to stress is that I just provide these as options. You don't have to provide anything more than the base amount. That's it. They're just there as kind of benchmarks so that you can come to the site and have a sense for how many people on average are donating at a certain amount. Because that's an important decision-making tool for a lot of people, and I understand that. So anyway, let's go through the actual Q&A. First of all, this is just a bit of an introduction, so just explaining pretty much what I've explained in the video so far. Why am I on Patreon? First and foremost, my reasoning is similar to many content creators. I want to ensure that I can continue to make top quality videos for a healthy, growing community to watch and enjoy. Apart from that, here are my particular reasons. 1, to accommodate charitable viewers with an expressed or unexpressed wish to support the channel directly at a monthly amount of their choosing. 2, to accommodate conscientious viewers who wish to use ad blockers while still feeling as though they are supporting the channel monetarily. Or 3, to accommodate viewers who are both of the above. Again, we've gone over that, but I just wanted to read the actual Q&A answer. So here's one that we didn't necessarily go over in the short version. Don't you already have income from ad revenue? Actually, we did kind of go over this, didn't we? Yes, I do. Happily, YouTube is already helping me to realize the dream artists and creative people share of being able to sustain some form of income from their own creative endeavors. So, you know, when I wrote this question, I was like, I know what the question is, right? And I'll answer it. But when people are asking this question, what's the real question? And we got at some of this in the short version a moment ago. Why should a YouTuber be seeking incremental income from Patreon? What justifies charitable support? By the way, it just took me 4 tries to say those last 4 words. Something about what justifies charitable support. It's not working with me today. From viewers as a revenue stream on top of ad revenue. Any content creator that relies on ad revenue lives with one anxiety above most others, which is the vast proportion of their income that is being blocked by ad blockers. And there's nothing wrong with using an ad blocker. Ads these days can be frustrating. They really are. I mean, actually, one that drives me absolutely bananas right now is Google's, I don't know what they're calling it, but it's the When You campaign. And it's just, it has, you know, when you find your movie time, when you do this, when you do that. And the backdrop is just that screaming, that kind of electronica beat. And it just, I want to throw things whenever one of those ads plays. It's sickening, and it's all over the place right now. So it's understandable that people want these things to stop. I get it. The downside, though, is that the amount of income generated by ads on YouTube and other streaming content has dwindled precipitously as a result of this stuff. The revenue proportions affected or blocked are significant, and this is just as true for full-time, high-income content creators as well as part-time hobbyists such as myself. One 2015 report estimated that $22 billion had been lost in the overall internet economy that year as a result of ad blockers, and the number would double in 2016, which is just nuts. Therefore, giving my viewers the opportunity to subscribe and support me via Patreon is a great way to completely eliminate this concern on my end. Completely eliminate it. And it's done through negligibly small, totally voluntary donations, which I just think is great. So, wait a minute. How can Patreon completely eliminate the entire problem, you might ask? So again, as we've gone over, even a single $1 monthly subscription from one person is enough to make up the revenue of several hundred views for that month, ad blocked or not. Think about that. $1 a month is worth hundreds of ad-enabled views. Multiply that by 10, whether that's one person paying 10 or 10 paying $1, and you're offsetting thousands, almost 10,000 individual ad blockers with just $10. Again, we talked about this a moment ago. Now, keep adding orders of magnitude, 10, 100, 1,000 as more people donate, and Patreon's usefulness as a buffer against this prevalent issue is, I hope, profoundly clear, especially now since we've talked about it so many times during this video. I promised I would read through the entire Q&A, and that's what I'm doing, damn it. And what this means... Oh, I just found a typo. Okay, I'll have to fix that. And what this means is that all you really have to give to make a massive difference. Do you have any idea how many times I read over this and worked on it, and I just found a typo in the middle of my recording? Oh my God, I'm so angry. All you really have to give to make a massive difference in the life of the channel is $1. This is especially true considering how well $1 a month, again, can add up across a growing base of subscribers. Until the channel grows to such a size that monthly donations no longer fully make up for the number of ad-blocked views, the problem will be truly and completely gone. What can I receive for my contribution? I do not provide any incentive for contributions from channel patrons apart from the content I already make on YouTube. More on that in a moment. But know that you will have my gratitude, and the knowledge that A, you have complete amnesty to use whatever ad blocking software you'd like because you've more than made up for it. And B, you have, even at the minimum amount of giving, made a more sizable contribution in a single month than you'd make watching 1,000 videos. And just to give you the math, assuming you watch entire videos without stopping short, that's 17 days of YouTube binge watching with no breaks. Not even getting up to go to the bathroom. 17 days straight. You've just made up for that amount of income from me from one person. Giving $1. It's crazy. So, Hadrian. Other channels provide special rewards for patrons. Why don't you? Sorry, I didn't mean to be that snarky. Firstly, not all of them do, but I don't mean in any way, again, I said this before, but I'll say it again. I don't mean in any way to comment on the correctness or incorrectness of that decision in general. To each their own. I don't think that there's any one right answer to how to use Patreon. For me, the answer to this question has solely to do with what is right for my channel's community. This community has always been and will always be one in which privilege or status in the community is determined by someone's behavior toward me and toward other people. In other words, their overall civility, their decency as a person. If I come to enjoy having you as a part of the community, it's because you earned my good opinion by treating me and my other viewers with respect. That's how one earns favor here. On the other hand, regardless of how well you participate on the channel itself, coming over here and becoming a Patreon makes me grateful to you. But it can't make me like and enjoy your presence as a person, no matter how much you give, in the same way that genuine, positive communication can. Never like good manners and common decency can and will. So, being totally candid with you, as I said before, the idea just doesn't sit well with me that an ill-behaved $10 subscriber could have access to anything that a stellar, long-time, non-paying subscriber does not. Nothing against channels that do provide special rewards, more power to them, but if you become a patron of my channel, I'd ask you to consider your donations just that, donations, because you like my content. If looking at it this way is at all an issue with you, I understand completely, and I urge you, again, quite sincerely, don't donate at all. I'm totally happy to have you enjoy the channel without contributing monetarily. This is a fun one. So I want to give more than $1. How much should I give? Tell me what you need, Hadrian. $1 doesn't seem like enough. That's the problem of this question. Look, I get it. I understand the temptation to feel like $1 is not impactful enough at times. At the same time, you feel like any amount higher, maybe $3, $5, especially $10, $20, is tough to justify in your budget, especially if you're already patronizing multiple channels, right? Patronizing sounds weird. If you're already a patron of multiple channels, suddenly you end up in a weird place where you don't donate because you can't afford to be as helpful to the channel as you have convinced yourself you want to be. Stop. Hey, you listen. Stop it. Stop right now. Stop what you're thinking. Stop what you're doing. I cannot stress this enough. $1 is more than impactful enough. I mean, think about this. I have almost 2,500 subscribers as of this recording. Hope to have many more soon. If I had every single person subscribing to my channel just donate $1, do the math, every month, it's more than impactful enough. Not only from that argument's perspective, but from the one we've already talked about, where you think about the actual revenue impact, how many views $1 makes up for when you consider the ad blocking problem, okay? $1 is more than impactful enough. Don't feel weird just giving the minimum amount. B, how much you give beyond that is truly and completely and totally up to you. I'm serious. Don't worry about it. I am never going to differentiate between people based on how much they pay me. Will I express gratitude to people who donate 10, 20? Sure. Like, I will shower them with genuine gratitude and thankfulness, but as far as how I treat them as individuals, it's not going to be any different. It's all based on how everybody treats one another. So in the questions above, I believe I've made a compelling case for why $1 is all you need to worry about giving if your desire is to support the channel in a meaningful way, beyond simply watching and taking part in the community, which is a great form of support as well. Another reason a $1 monthly donation works so well, again, is that it's so small. I don't want anyone worrying even remotely about whether their donation is something they can afford. That's silly. And I mean, I'm probably saying that it's silly for me to even be bringing this up because people probably won't even think that, but I just want to cover that ground because it's like, no, stop. Like, just give what you can, you know? I would have you bear in mind, though, if you do choose to give more than $1, you're at the very least tripling that already substantial individual impact. So if you go for the $3 mark, for instance. So all that being said, I leave it to you and ask you not to feel cheap or guilty or anything like that for giving the minimum. The minimum is awesome. So here's the part we haven't talked about yet. How will you be allocating Patreon funds? I will earmark every cent exclusively for the channel's expenses and hardware. You'll help me maintain up-to-date equipment and make improvements directly related to my content production. Your funds will not go toward rent or quote-unquote bills. And another fun question, but won't they though? Well, yeah, it's weird. Every $1 of my own money that I earned, that I don't have to spend on the channel because you gave me $1 for the month, could also count, depending on how you look at budgeting, as money you put directly into my pocket and the rest of my non-channel budget. It's just the way it is. Here's the reality. And let me kind of come full circle now because we talked about Patreon in the beginning. Patreon was created to give artists a reliable income for their creative endeavors, thanks to fans who are voluntarily willing to contribute to that cause. And I totally acknowledge that for those of you who might be hearing about Patreon for the first time while watching this, or you've never donated before, it's easy to hesitate when considering donating. My reaction upon seeing Patreon for the first time was that it seemed odd to directly finance another person's livelihood simply because you believed in their creative work. If you're more fiscally conservative, that voice in you or in all of us might ask, shouldn't purchasing their work, or in these cases, watching ad-enabled videos be enough? Shouldn't it? But when you consider that A, many people are perfectly willing to donate when we like what someone does, right? And B, a bunch of negligibly small donations can add up to a big difference in a creator's quality, potential, and personal well-being, the existence of Patreon actually starts to make good sense. I really believe that. Another thing, if it doesn't hurt anyone, just let people do what they want to do. Live and let live. That happens to be the same rationale, the same principle behind my setting up this Patreon page. People willing to donate asked me about it repeatedly and urged me to launch it. Okay? It has become a viable platform, including for much more successful YouTube creators in my very same niche of content. That's why I use it. That's why I've modeled it the way I have. And I hope you'll consider supporting the channel on Patreon. And that's the end of the Q&A. If you are, by the way, I will mention this. If you're a patron, there are I can't actually share posts with you on here. I haven't posted anything yet. But there is actually kind of a mini community, social media community on Patreon, the same way there is in Twitter, the same way there is on Twitter, the same way there is on YouTube. depending on where you want to interact with me. It's just another place, to chat, so we can have conversations there. But that is as private as it gets, and here I am undermining my whole thing about I'm not going to give you anything special, but I can't help it in this case. Patreon provides a little posting community, so I will be able to post things for patrons, and I'm sure it's going to be just massive posts of gratitude. It'll be like that. On a regular basis, and maybe discussing things related to the Q&A, answering questions, etc. So that's it. I hope I have filled you in on Patreon to your satisfaction. I hope all of this makes sense, and I urge you to ask questions in the comments below, not only because you might need the answers, but because someone else watching might be curious about the same thing, and discussing these things is important. Again, I completely understand that this is your money going to me for a very personal, artistic kind of reason, and that's a big deal. Patreon is a special site, and I don't take these donations lightly. I encourage you to ask questions, I encourage you to be skeptical, and I encourage you to make sure that you genuinely want to support the channel before you pull the trigger, because I certainly don't want a donation from anyone that's not completely comfortable with it. That wouldn't sit well with me. I don't think it's right. I want you to enjoy the content first and foremost. That's the most important thing. So thanks very much for being here as always. Comments, as I just said, are always welcome, and I will see you in the next video.